What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here in this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. All right, guys, we have 3 new pre-proposals, which are not actually proposals. They are just polls using the proposal system set forth by Clayboyne here to discuss some issues that people have been bringing up consistently within the community, feedback for the team that the team is now trying to get some stake-weighted opinions on. Now, these are contentious issues. We've talked about them at length here on the channel, covered them in depth, but here is your chance for your voice to actually be heard. But before we even get into that, just know that right now, none of them are passing. And keep in mind, these are all probably like game-related things, so the team would have the final say. But and you can see very clearly that I voted against all of them. I'll get into that. I'll get into why at the end. But here are the 3 items. So community poll, lower the unlock costs for Soulbound reward cards. A lot of people are complaining about the 10x. So here is your chance. If you want to lower the unlock cost, you would vote in favor of this. I voted against it. Like I said, I'll get into all these at the end. The second one is for Rebellion reward cards and the ability for them to be unlocked right at the beginning. So if you want them to be unlocked and tradable from the get-go, you can vote up. And if you don't want them to be unlocked, you can vote down, and they'll be soulbound. I voted against this as well, but I'll get into that at the end. And then finally, reinstate the card level limits by league. So everybody who liked the league locks, where you could just go in and play, bronze, silver, gold, diamond, or champion, that's been a big issue since March or April, whenever the new league or the new rank system came into play. Here is your chance. If you want the league limits and league locks to come back in, go ahead and vote for it. Otherwise, you can vote against it and leave it as is. So you can see right now, we have about 120 million-ish votes across each of these. And they're not passing, right? So you're looking at 27%, 18%, 18%. Now, let me give you some clarity on why I voted against all of them, and I'll go into each of them in a little bit more depth. Now, I've talked about this stuff in the past, but just to give a little bit of refresher, I think the unlock costs are necessary. I know that they're high, but if we don't protect the value of cards, then cards will have no value, and therefore people will never look to buy anything from the team, which is what we need people to do in order for the team to be able to continue until they can find another revenue source. So if cheap cards are always just going to be available, or essentially free cards are always going to be available, that is something to me that is non-negotiable. And maybe 10x is too high. Maybe just burn value would have been cool. But at this point in time, I'm going to trust where Matt is coming from, the calculations that the team has done. And even though it's to my own detriment, because I don't have all of the cards maxed, I will have to go out and buy them if I choose to, right? I'll have to choose carefully where I spend my capital. But I'm voting against that. Now, the second one here, I'm really on the fence on, and I could probably go either way because I've talked with BJangles about this. I think I even voted in favor of a proposal. Hold on, let me see. Now I'm curious. Where are all of the completed ones? Wasn't there one here to alternative voucher? No, maybe I was supporting BJangles there. All right, I thought that there was something there. I remember in my conversation with BJangles, I had said that I liked the idea of the cards being available early, but I understood where Matt was coming from in terms of having them be locked so that people had to play for them. Here's the thing. What we talked about in that podcast episode that I did with the People's Guild, this is not a perfect way to show progression. And I agree with BJangles very much on that. There are many other ways we should be showing progression. But at this point in time, we just don't have those. And until we get that, I think that we have to keep these as some kind of progression marker. Now, that's not the best argument, right? A lot of this is me just kind of, this is where we're at right now. It gets people excited, at least for the first portion of it. And in my opinion, like, these cards should only be in print, not even for a year maximum, right? Whereas we've had the Soulbound reward cards for a year and a half, or actually more than a year and a half at this point. So I don't know what this looks like. I don't know how long they'll be in print. A lot of this stuff is fluid as we go through anyway. But at this point in time, I just don't think it makes sense for us to be unlocking them from the get-go. Now, maybe somebody can convince me and say, well, if you unlock them, right, and charge a super high amount, which has been proposed, you could have DEC get back to peg. And from an economic standpoint, I could be I could be swung to that, right? But at this point in time, I'm just going to vote against it. I did think about abstaining, but I didn't want to leave it. Otherwise, that little bead is always there at the top telling me that there's something that I need to do. So I'm voting against it for the time being. Although there's 7 days, so I could be swayed one way or the other on this. Granted, it's not passing at this point pretty handily, and I'm curious to see what arguments out there would be able to convince high SPS stakers. And I'm not one, right? I'm talking about the folks that have like tens of millions, right? So your Vugtis, Azure Khan, Michael B, like those folks would probably be the ones. And then finally, the reinstate card level limits by league. This is something I personally do miss. As somebody who used to play primarily in gold, I understand the need for card leagues, or I should say league locks, when we have such a small player base. But that is not the long-term vision of the team, right? The long-term vision of the team is to get lots of players in here. And we know that they haven't even started doing that because they haven't even finished the new player experience. So until we try that, right? Until we go through the whole marketing effort and all that, I don't want to revert back to something that, again, I understand the argument that Matt is coming from, where it's just like it disincentivizes people from leveling up their cars and there should never be anything there. But I can also buy the other side of the argument that it's, it allows people to play at certain levels rather than having to, feel like they need to spend thousands of dollars every single set. So right now I'm voting against it because even though I agree with it in theory, I don't think that we've had a proper chance to test this new system out with a ton of players. And as I said earlier, I have been playing a couple games in low bronze, and I haven't run into any high level accounts that are playing only max cards. So yes, I'll need to test out what that looks like in silver, right, and gold. And I think I've already saw some comments that came through saying that you have max level cards there. But keep in mind that I do believe the team is continuing to add a lot of these liquidity bots in place. So this is something that I can be swayed on as well, but only after it's given a try, right? So because I understand the previous argument, I thought the system wasn't necessarily broken to begin with, but I could understand where Matt was going to. So once we have tested this, and even if we test it and no new players come in, right, then at that point, I could say, all right, well, we tried, right? Whether we tried with a large sample size of players coming in or the team tried to bring in a bunch of new players and they didn't come in, I would be very much open to going back to league locks at that point. But right now, it just doesn't make sense. So similarly to the Rebellion reward cards being unlocked, I don't know. I'm swayable, but with this, I just want a little bit of time to actually test it out once the team turns on the marketing machine. Now, granted, Bitcoin, crypto, the market, the world is on fire right now. So I have no idea how the next couple of months are going to play out, but this is time for the team to just continue building, right? There's not any, even if the team were running marketing right now, there's no new people coming into crypto, right? So we would need to wait for probably a new Bitcoin all-time high and for there to be a confirmed bull market with a lot of liquidity entering into the space, interest rates coming down, and that might be a while. So this is a tough period for folks, and I do understand the desire to either revert to the old ways of things or to change some of the new items that have come in and tweak them. But I want to stay the course for the time being, and that is why I'm choosing to vote against these. Again, it's not that I'm saying no forever. If anything, I would love to kind of put this out on record and say, let's check this again in January, right? See how things are in January. If nothing's changed, if the team is just delay after delay, then maybe we change things up. But at this point in time, we're on a path right now charted by Matt, and whether I agree with him or not doesn't really matter at this point in time. I want to be able to see what he can do, what he and the team can do based on the path that they have set out. And until we see any kind of major faltering, which we haven't, right? And I know a lot of folks are probably going to be like, oh, well, look at the token prices. Look at this. I mean, everything is down, right? And if you say, oh, well, look at like the delays and such. Yes, there were certain things that got delayed here and there. And sure, new player experience hasn't been quite what we wanted. And land has been obviously disappointing. But we are moving forward. A lot of these things are getting done on a week by week, month by month basis. And I want to be able to let that vision play out, maybe not in its totality, right? I'm not saying give it like another 2 years, but at least give it until the end of the year and then see how things go. And then we can readdress some of these things. But again, it's my vote. I'm just explaining my vote. I don't have to, but I'm just trying to give you my perspective on this. You're free to vote how you will. And I encourage you to, because for those of you complaining about these things, this is your chance to make your voice heard. So that is all I have for you guys in this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.